Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about The Penguin Season 1, Episode 4. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I love that we open immediately where the last episode left off, but I love you get that little extra dialogue of like, I don't know how to trust you. He's like, oh, and everyone's commented on like how F that is. It's like, oh, like, I don't know how to trust you. Don't worry, let me show you how. Leave her, you know? So, yeah. The question was, well, when Nadia rolls up, the question was like, yo, did Sophia hear that? The way Nadia was talking to him, it's like, well, there was not a lot of context, but you kind of infer, like, kind of, she's laying it on. The fact is, there's a pre-arrangement between them, and Sophia's confused, and the way Nadia's going on and on about, like, working with them, and even going as far as being like, oh, I actually thought you actually worked with Oz to kill your brother. And just the realization in that moment, not only is he a traitor, but now it's like, I was right. I should have trusted my instincts that you were the one responsible. She beats herself up about it later because it's like, I was seconds away from killing you, and I second guessed myself because this boy is very slimy and slippery, and was able to kind of, you know, he had, which is ironic too, because Vic didn't want to leave her behind. He was like, what about Sophia? But it's like, Vic's the one that set up the car to like exonerated Oz. So it's like, yeah, you're on her kill list right now too. So everyone who's attached to Oz is going to catch the smoke. Which I want to go ahead and throw this out here. Let's not forget, she locked on to Eve. Some people have drawn the comparison, comparison, but just the knowledge and knowing, like, right, Eve was his alibi, and we know that Sophia did her own investigating when it came to her brother. That's how she found that dude. Like I said, I think his name was Calvin, the dude that was with Vic, like trying to, like, one of the people trying to like steal Oz's ride in episode 1. So she might have come across Eve pumping her for information about like what does she know at the time, especially because Oz gave her specifically as his alibi when they went to have lunch together. So Sophia was eyeing her, and she even made a whole point of she didn't want to get caught up in Sophia's grasp. And like, what was that, episode 2 she had said that Eve did. So there's a lot there that, you know, like eventually she's going to go after Eve just to get back at Oz, because it's like, oh, you mean something to him. So, and you also helped cover for him. So yeah, I mean, we all knew Eve. I mean, I had a feeling like Eve was going to get it. Under what circumstances, we don't know, but we'll see. But either way, I'm going on this massive diatribe. But yeah, Oz got out of there. Nadia and them were so busy trying to get out of there that they left Sophia alive. Which I should also note, this the actor, his name is Arya, but I saw the name in the credits. I was like, wait, why does it? It's like, is that name who I think it is? I looked it up. He's the actor who, if you ever saw the show Legacies, he's the actor who played Landon. I saw that name. I was like, that name looks so familiar, and I was like, is that where I know him from? Sure as hell is. Had no idea. He plays Sal and Nadia's son. I didn't even realize that was him. I had to go back and stare, because I think he's got facial hair in this, and his hair is a little different, so I think that might also be like what's throwing me. Either way, tensions and all this, I wanted to include that. But yeah, this episode's mainly a flashback to Sophia, and we learn like, oh, she believed her mom had depression and killed herself. And we also got a peek into her and Oz's relationship. It seemed like it was a relationship where it's like, they did seem to be friendly enough. It wasn't kind of like this master and servant relationship that it eventually kind of morphed into. It was kind of like that for, like, you know, Oz answering to all of the Falcons. Like, she, out of anyone, seemed to respect him, even to the point like Alberto called him a penguin. She's like, whoa, don't call him that. So I think that's why his betrayal cut so deep, because she did look at him as the person that she could trust, the person that was by her side, not just her driver. He's like, because she's the one that's like, yo, you deserve more than this. We both do. You've got a penis, so you're definitely more in line for a promotion than I am. But like, there was a camaraderie there, which is so heartbreaking to know that it you know, this situation is what it is. But yeah, she had a good relationship with Oz, which is kind of a nice pairing when you think about like the conversation last episode when he was kind of like, I'm sorry I screwed you over, but was it worth it? Yes. and all that he was able to gain and all that he got from built around her downfall. But either way, she gets approached by, was it Summer Gleason, a reporter from the Gazette, and she's bringing up the women. I actually didn't think about, because I've not seen The Batman since it was in theater, so I haven't seen it like over 2 years. So I did not remember this detail. I was listening to someone else talk about it at the time. They were like, wait, Sophia was like, oh, I'm not the Hangman. And then someone was like, wait, didn't Carmine, Carmine Falcone kill 7 women? I guess that was a detail in the movies. Once again, I've seen it. I've only seen the Batman like once, I believe, and like I said, it's been a hot minute, so I did not remember that detail. So I was like, oh, because I kind of looked over that line last episode where she's like, I'm not the Hangman. It's like, oh, she meant that literally because she took the fall for someone else's crime. Not like she willingly took the fall, they just set her up. But it's because she was approached by this reporter and she didn't know what to really make of it or what to believe. And it's so, like, it's so sad because it's like, Carmine had her set up to be the next one in line because she had more ambition. She was more for this life than Alberto was, as he put it, like Alberto was the softie. Which is also interesting, too, that Carmine is played by Mark Strong in this, not John Turturro. Because I think I knew this, I heard it from somebody, right when the show started, that John Turturro was just, I guess scheduling-wise, he couldn't film the show. So Mark Strong filled that role, which is interesting, too, because Mark Strong's also been in another DC property. He was basically the main antagonist of the first Shazam movie. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't even think about that while I was watching, but it's just that jarring thing of I think I remember enough of John Turturro's performance to a small degree that it's a little jarring because I know it's supposed to be John Turturro, but I also don't remember enough for it to be a thing of it completely takes me out. It's just one of those things of I wish I didn't have that knowledge in the back of my head. It probably still would have gotten to me at some point in time, but it's still it's only one episode. I mean, who knows if there's going to be any more future flashback things that they use him for, but whatever the case may be, it is what it is. I think Mark Strong did a good job. I don't think he was trying to do a John Turturro impression of how John played. I think he was trying to do it himself. But I think you keep some of that same energy, but I think you just, you're not trying to mimic the portrayal the same way. But there is kind of this soullessness that it's just something that both John Turturro's portrayal and Mark Strong's portrayal has, where it's just she brings up that, and he's able to hide it behind those shades of just being no, it's fine. He's like, yeah, you know how much it hurts me and disturbs me when you bring it up your mom and stuff. She's like, yeah, but mom, did she ever go see a psychiatrist? He's like, your mom was a proud woman and she turned down all the help, that I try to provide. God knows I try to provide her help, but it's Sophia's pushing the subject, trying to get an answer, but he won't give her one. And she even tried to ask Alberto about it, as about some of the people their dad had been with, but I don't know if he knew, but he knows right, there's certain things we just don't talk about with dad. It's that's always been the thing. So dad's work business is work business and we leave it at that. And this is where we see early on in the story where there's kind of a little bit of a disconnect between Sophia and Oz, where he's questioning her and she's just kind of shut up and just do your job and drive. I think the first instance of that is after she had met Summer, because she went to go see her and she brought up look at these wounds on their neck. They're wounds someone was strangling them and disguising it like a hanging, but also there's on the police reports were missing the self-defense wounds. And so obviously Sophia doesn't want to believe that because it's the only parent she has left. You love your dad, you want to make your dad proud. Your dad's been so proud of you, he's been so supportive of you, and to find out you thought your mom killed herself, hell, you even have a foundation in her name to help other women, who could potentially go through this, and to find out, no, your mom was murdered by your dad. It's world shattering, and she didn't want to believe it, and she went to, got back in the car, and Oz was telling her, yeah, you might want to be careful about this. She's like, just shut up, you're the driver, I didn't ask for your opinion. that was the moment where it's just kind of like, oh, cool, like I'm back to servant mode, which is so interesting too, considering like Sophia threw that in his face again. Oh, she threw it in his face in episode 3 because she knows how much that stings. Because oh, you went through the trouble of making your way up in the world. I'm gonna put you back in the role that you were in previously, my driver, back when you were kind of a nobody or nothing. You were just Penguin to so many other people, which she has never actually referred to him as Penguin. It's mainly Johnny Vitti who's been the one that's kind of called him that. I don't even remember if, well, we know Alberto called him this in this episode, but it seems like she's probably the only person in the family who never called him Penguin. Hell, there's even that sad scene where we see like, so it's happy in the moment, but it's sad because you know where present day is, where we saw that scene with Sophia and Carla, and it's like, oh, that sucks. Like, you guys were good. It seemed like you were all joking and stuff like that. But then we had this situation with Oz selling her out. And it's like, he tries to justify it later on. It's like, yo, I was trying to do it for you. I was looking out for you. Which I'm like, no, you weren't. He's like, my job is to keep an eye on you and stuff like that. Her dad would have never known if you hadn't run your mouth. I mean, maybe he would have, because Falcone's probably, he's got, well, we know he's got detectives. He's got people in the police department. So he even talks about it later on that the word kind of got to him that way too. So Oz did sell her out, but he probably tried to nip it in the bud by like handling it from the police side of things, I guess. But yeah, he probably also has people who work for him at the Gazette. Maybe, maybe not. Either way, he confronts Sophia about it after Sophia kind of confronts him about it. And she's like, I remember that day when Mom died. You had scratches on your head. She's like, but I know it wasn't from Mom. It had to be from something else. She was trying to justify it. Like, you couldn't have been the person who did this. And the moment he's like, oh, you're distressed and you're confused, you should go. You're like, oh, here we go. And so the moment they leave the party, she ends up getting arrested. And even Oz is like, whoa, what's going on? And it's like, yeah, he was kind of like taken off guard. Because once again, I believe him when he said he didn't expect Carmine to handle things the way he did. I mean, like getting your daughter arrested for 7 murders. And on top of that, like getting her sent to Arkham. It's hardcore, bro. He didn't expect that. But he also didn't put up a little fight, but not that much of a fight. He didn't try that hard. He was just, I guess Carmine was like, cool, for your loyalty of, because here's my daughter, but she had the keys to the castle and she spit in my face the moment she went against me, so it's like, yeah, this is your reward. Once again, he said it was worth it in the end, so. But yeah, everything's being fallen on Sophia because we have the extra daggers because Luca, Johnny, and Carla all wrote letters testifying that she was depressed and stuff like that, and she was that basically she hasn't been right since her mom died, and they're trying to use that narrative of because her mom hung herself, the trauma of that has made her lash out towards people and taking that grief and turning it into anger and violence. It's like, oh, that's the psychopathy of why she's hanging people, because of the trauma of her mom hanging herself. So it's like, there's layers to that. And that's what makes the whole Carla thing even more disgusting from like, what was that episode 2? Her doing that, like Luca told her what to say. It makes it even more jarring the way they talk to her, the way they treat her, because they acting like she's a sociopath, and they all know, they all played a part in it. Like, even if it was all Carmine, you still signed off on it. You didn't stand up to him, and none of you had her back. And she was only supposed to go to Arkham for like 6 months. That was kind of like, all right, and then we'll kind of figure something out. And, Alberto told her, like, to hold it down, like, keep your head strong. You're a Falcone, you'll survive. And yeah, like, it's a rough and tumble place. And she meets Julian Rush, who is kind of her therapist currently. It's like, oh, he was one of the psychiatrists at the doctors that worked at Arkham. But I guess that kind of excludes a Hugo Strange in this universe. Like, maybe he didn't work at Arkham at that time, or because the main doctor the main doctor dude, she does talk about it like, oh, another doctor, and then doctor after him. So there have been multiple doctors she had run-ins with in her tenure at Arkham. So doesn't mean there's not a Hugo Strange in his universe. Maybe he just hadn't gotten there yet. Maybe in that 10-year period, some point he did. Maybe he's the most recent person to get there, or the last person to show up there. Or maybe he pops up in the future, the Batman movie, and maybe it's 2 or potential 3 if there ends up being one, where he's at Arkham. Maybe not. I don't know. Oh yeah, also her roommate, not direct roommate, but roommate in the room next to her is Magpie. And the moment I heard that, I was like, I feel like I have heard that fairly recently, the name Magpie. I was like, wasn't it in Batwoman? I looked it up and confirmed. It's like, yes. So I was like, oh, interesting. And just, that's... Because I was curious too. I was like, oh, which villains are they going to drop? And the fact that she's in this makes me go, well, she's probably going to be like, they're not going to utilize her as like a main Batman villain. So it's like, yeah, she's kind of small time. So just kind of little winks and nods. But man, this episode is Gaslight City, because it's like poor Sophia, because you do feel bad for her, because she is innocent, but like her name and reputation is being like being set up by your dad, being abandoned in Arkham, and no matter how much you like insist upon your innocence, no one listens to you because everyone's been like paid off to like ignore us. Like, I don't know, maybe Julian legitimately thought she was just guilty of everything, and she tried to explain it to him, and it's just like, oh, like he's like not listening and not believing her. I mean, she got jumped in the cafeteria by that lady, because it's like she's walking around, she's not chained up. Why is no one doing anything? And she proceeded to beat up on Sophia and everything. And the moment she brought it up to Julian, he didn't believe her. He's like, they'll look into it. We don't know why she didn't have a chain on. It's like, that should have been a clear sign of like, there might be something to it. Like, the fact is a patient just happened to stroll up and no guards who were in there did anything. Like, that should have been a clear-cut sign. Also, the tie back into Bliss when Magpie takes it and it just kind of like fades away and just like, ooh, look at the colors. It's like, oof. Off in La La Land right now. It's like, yeah, you get them from the doctor if you're good. Then they did a whole setup situation where they put them in the same room in the cafeteria and handcuffed the other lady to the table, and they gave Sophia a fork, and she's like, oh, you want me to kill her? But she's like, I'm not going to do that, because that's just going to prove the narrative you want to create. And they tussle, and the lady gets the fork. I was like, oh god, she's gonna kill herself, and then like Sophia's gonna get blamed for it. And lo and behold, that's what happened. But it was sad because she was like, end it, please end it. It's just like she was going through it, and it's just extra sad because that means like they took advantage of someone that's like you weren't there to help her. She was a weapon for you to use. You knew that you picked the right person who would make the perfect weapon for you to like send Sophia, because like the whole point is to break Sophia until she like, I guess, loses any interest in trying to prove her own innocence and break her and numb her. It's kind of like, an old school thinking way of doing things, like with like her dad's approach is the kind of same thing of, oh my god, my wife is hysterical, we might as well lock her up in a mental hospital for her sake and everyone else's so that she can get better. It's that same type of energy. But yeah, Sophia gets strapped to a table in electroshock therapy over and over again. And just like how just like that hard jump from like her being electrocuted to her to like just kind of like gasping for air and waking up. It happens over and over again. And she's pulling at like the wall, because like there's wallpaper underneath, and we see like, right, it's tied to like the room that she found her mom's body in, and it's just, and then now we also get the explanation about the whole like why she grasped her neck and kind of like she's choking is because this whole trauma manifested itself in the form of her dreaming about herself choking with all of this. So it's like, she is another victim of her father. So that is a sad thing that Sophia, she brought it up last episode that Zhao like, oh, I get to dance on my father's grave. It is sad that you yourself never got to get back against him for literally robbing you of 10 years of your life and robbing you of your mom. And then finally, we had like the final nail in a coffin after everything she went through, after all the like electroshock, and just like they're breaking her more and more, and just that last glimmer of hope is completely broken. And I loved it, how this scene in particular is the same scene from was it episode 1 when she saw Alberto get shot. It's the same scene, but like without that element to it. And it's like, I guess that was like, well, because Alberto visited her from time to time, right? But I guess it's a pivotal moment in her memories, because that's the moment Alberto came to her with the news. But he also made the declaration of promise he would not give up on trying to save her. But yeah, that was the last glimmer of hope she had, because the judge signed off saying, like, apparently the doctor was signing some letter about just like her condition and stuff like that to the judge, and they signed off on it. And so it's already been 6 months, but she's going to be stuck here, as we can see, another 9.5 years. So, and just her walking, just so distraught and broken. But Magpie's like, oh my God, I guess it didn't go well. Hey, we're going to be friends. Hey, if you tell the doctor like what he wants to hear, you can get the meds too. And Sophia's like, you're talking to him, aren't you? And it's like, I don't think Magpie was. Who knows? Maybe she was. But, I mean, I don't know how much Sophia really opened up to Magpie, because it does seem like that was her only friend. Who knows what if she made any other friends at Arkham. But I'm also curious, well, because we know he's not doing the fantastical villains in this universe. But I love that, like, Magpie had brought up a garden, but she's like, oh, it's kind of really not really a garden because there's no plants and stuff. I was like, oh, that's kind of funny, because, like, there might be a Pamela Isley in this universe, but she will never become Poison Ivy. I mean, not unless he does some different version of it, but once again, like, Matt Reeves has made it clear he's not going to tackle the more fantastical villains. So that would have also been a thing of like, oh, there's plants, there's a garden, like their lack of a garden kind of be like, no Poison Ivy in this continuity. At least that's how I'm reading that. It's probably a line of dialogue that's like, you can't overthink it. It's probably just a thing of, no, it's literally just a garden with no flowers. But if you read deeper, because it's Arkham, you're like, okay, so that means there's no Poison Ivy in this continuity. I mean, at least not at this point in time. I mean, because hell, all this is going down before Bruce has even become Batman, because once again, by the time the Batman happened, he was only Batman for what, I think 2 or so years at that time in the continuity. And still that's the case, because it seems like, even though the movie's coming out in like 2025, like, or no 2026 at this point, it's still gonna be like this, where it takes place like still relatively in the same time frame as the movie. The Batman, because this started like a week after the events of the Batman, and that's probably going to take place like this show ends and leads right into the Batman, so it's probably going to be like a couple, like the Batman to the Batman Part 2 will probably be like a couple months or something like that. Either way, my whole point was just like, right, he's not even Batman at this point in time. So it seems like Joker was the first big bad he took down in this continuity, but whatever. Like I said, I'm continuing to go on my tangent. So, but yeah, I kind of felt bad because the only pseudo friend Sophia had, she proceeded to bash her face in on a table. I was like, ooh, that's brutal. And then she was telling the doctor, she's like, I told you I was innocent, and then gets a needle to the neck of Bliss and drops. And then she wakes up, to Julian. And we kind of find out more context about things. It turns out he quit at some point during that 10 years and never came back. And he's like, right, I worked with Alberto to get you out. But she's like, no, you quit. He's like, because I could leave. Sadly, you didn't have that privilege or honor, or not being able to do that. And she talks about the way it's like, oh, I know you miss it. Like the power and control, being able to kind of help me and kind of wanting to save me. Because he does have a savior's complex when it comes to her, but it's also like, it does give you some kind of power over someone. Like, oh, I want to fix you. I can fix you. And it's like, there's a hero complex there of like, yeah, by saving you, it creates a deeper bond between us. It's like, you were a little too... Yeah, you cross some, ethical lines as a doctor and stuff like that, a patient and doctor relationship and dynamic. But she sees this for what it really is. Because he's like, right, you should go to Italy like your family wants you to, but not for them, for your own sake. You should start over. She's like, you know what? You're right. It's just because because it was the whole point of like, right, she was supposed to be sick, right? But now she realizes like, right, I'm not sick. The world is sick. And it's just like, now that she's kind of accepted that, like, Sophia just like any semblance of her just trying to hold some form of grasp over her psyche just gave up in the end. Was sitting at the table at the family gathering, made everyone sit, and she kind of proceeded to call everyone out because she's like, you guys betrayed me. The only person that had my back was my brother, and not one of you backed me up, and I was innocent. You're all responsible. You all knew what things were. Like, Johnny tried to run his mouth, and she looks at him and was like, yes, and he sat his ass right back down. Carla's trying to leave, and she's like, Carla, sit down. She did, and sent Gia on her way. It's like, yo, my beef is with this family. Everyone at this table, Gia's an innocent. That whole thing, like, it's kind of going to be a spoiler, but whatever. It gives me Villanelle from Killing Eve vibes. Like, how that storyline ends kind of gives me Killing Eve vibes. If you've seen Killing Eve, you know what I'm talking about. I was so curious because I was like, there's no way she's just going to let them all go. Like, she's going to get her revenge. I just didn't know how she was going to go about it. And the moment she went to her window and opened it, I was like, are you going to make it seem like a robbery or something? Like, what are you doing? I was like, next thing that came across my mind, I'm like, not unless it's like poisoned gas or something is what that seems to. I don't know. I don't know if that was like monoxide poisoning or something, what she did. But yeah, led Gia away and was, oh, like, let's eat cake, let's hang out in the greenhouse. And it's like, oh, mom told you to stay, your mom told you to stay away from me, not to talk to me because I did bad things. It's like, yeah, I did. She's like, I was locked up, my dad put me in a dungeon with a lot of scary monsters. And it's like, will I be put in place? It's like, nope. Sophia's like, no, I'll never let the monsters get to you. So I wonder what Sophia's plan is. Is she going to raise Gia as her own, which is all kinds of twisted and effed up? Or is she going to try and give her to a different family? Like, as in, like, someone outside the Falcones, because they're all dead at this point in time, so. But her, like, I mean, it does seem like she didn't, like, Gia slept, but it doesn't seem like Sophia did. She waited till the sun came up, went into the house, gas mask on, turned any nozzle she had to turn, and proceeded to open the windows, and we just see dead bodies all around. We see... I kind of thought she was going to... I guess it's... I was about to say, you would think some people... I guess you couldn't really... Well, I was about to say, she couldn't really do it the way she would want to if she wanted to keep certain people alive. I was like, no, she did. She kept Johnny alive, which I was surprised. And it's like, are you going to finish him off yourself? I figured out of anyone, it'd probably be Luca. But obviously, like, it feels even more poetic to keep Johnny alive because I thought you were going to pop him at the end of the episode. But it's like, no, you need him. And I don't know if it's because of still the Zhao thing of like, oh, you still need him in that. Well, it might also be like she needs at least one Falcone who's like higher up in all of this to get her what she needs, whether it's like the financial like backings and access to all the money. Maybe that's why she needed him alive. Not unless Johnny's going to be her means of getting to Oz. I'm trying to figure out what other means would she need to keep him alive, because I guess the window she opened up was the window to Johnny's room to make sure that, like, right, his room got ventilation so he's not dying of monoxide poisoning in his sleep like everyone else did. Well, Uncle Luca's eyes were wide open, so I think they were like in the middle of sex or something like that when he got caught, but either way. It's just, yeah, everyone got it. And yet also at the same time, you're like, I don't feel bad for any of you because you all suck. You know, you made her out to be this monster, and she is the monster you made. And the Reaper has come to claim what she's owed. You wanted her to be the hangman. Well, she might not be quite the hangman, but she might just go ahead and adopt the whole element just to be, once again, to be the monster you made her to be. I'm also curious, did she ever get back against that first doctor? Like, you would assume that'd be one of her first things of business opposed getting out, but also she had a lot to worry about enacting her plan with like Bliss, and also, you know, finding out who killed Alberto. So some great and fascinating developments in this episode. I'm so curious to see where all this takes us, because we're going to immediately pick up with Oz and them post everything. So moment word gets to Oz about the family being dead and Sophia's on a rampage, and cause now you got the Maronis after you. The Falcones are dead with the exception of Sophia, but yeah, no, there's no wrath like a woman scorned, and she has been scorned to the up degree, so it's going to be fascinating to see how that all plays out going forward. But I think Sophia was already unhinged, but she was, like I said, teetering on trying to keep it all together. But now it's like, nah, she's going full tilt now. It's like, yo, like, you getting a crazier Sophia than we've gotten before. It's like, yeah, just everything that's kind of been building up all these years, this decade, is now just going to rain loose. And it's going to be interesting to see how that's personified. I wonder, is this character typically a little unhinged? Because Crystal Reed played a version of this character in Gotham, and like that character was severely unhinged in that as well. So I wonder if that's just the natural state of this character, of like it's always meant to be. Because I think her character, I think it's specifically pulled from, and someone can correct me in the comments down below. Once again, I'm not the most knowledgeable in comic books, but my understanding is like Sophia being the Hangman. Is that something specifically like? I don't think that's like all comic book continuity. I think it's specifically like the Long Halloween, but I could be mistaken. I think it was like a very specific run where she's the Hangman. I don't think she's always the Hangman. Also, just kind of just a side note, just I could not help noticing this. Like, once again, I hope I'm not butchering her name. It's Christine Milioti, but I've heard other people say Milioti, so I don't know the proper pronunciation. I'm sorry, but I'm also like, that yellow dress, like the way that fit her, I'm like, it really shows off her curves. I was like, the way that dress is sticking to her, I'm like, I could not help but notice that. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was like, I mean, she's very, very pretty. Like, there's no like nothing else to be said beyond that. Well, I mean, just I don't know, just something. Her in that yellow dress, kind of being like, kind of skipping around and a little psychotic. I don't know. Like, come on, what does that say about me that I'm like kind of hot? So yeah. I'm gonna stop this recording right now before I continue to say stupid shit. So either way, to the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.